Hello and welcome, this is Mousegunner, and we're back with some more of the Beast and Exploration DLC of Battle Brothers. We just completed a mission, and sadly, Lothar, the man that we hired, had his head caved in on the first mission that he took part in. But we did make it out otherwise pretty much unscathed. I think there was a slight injury to this guy, but that's about it. And we had a bunch of level ups, so we will be taking a look at that. I'm going to go ahead and just take Rupert here and re-equip him, although I am going to have to look at my equipment because we did salvage some good armor, so we're going to have to look through and figure out who we're going to give that armor to. This guy's probably a good candidate for that armor, so let's go ahead and I say that I'm still going to do the level up here. Let's see what we can get. So I always think that defense is great to pick up when you can get it, and his defense wasn't that great anyway, so it's good that we're getting that. I would like to up resolve and fatigue and things like that, but honestly at the point we're at, the melee skill is going to be fairly important as well, so I'll go ahead and grab that. Okay, now we need perk, and that's going to be recover. With my strategy, really the front line is not the main killers, the back line is. At least that's the way that I build my company. So the guy back here with the pitchfork, I'm going to want to build him to be the one that's really dealing out a lot of damage. And you did even see that in the last battle. He was the one that was dealing the death blow, or at least serious damage to a lot of the men that we were facing. So the front line is about tanking, more or less. They're there as you know, to form a wall and keep the bad guys off of us so that the back line can finish them. So that's the strategy anyway. So we're going to build the company around that. And recover is really important for your front line because they're oftentimes doing things that are very fatiguing. So you're going to want to have them recover. Okay, so now that we've done that, unfortunately we didn't increase this guy's fatigue, but he still has room to move with that. So I wouldn't have any problem upping his armor, but let's also take a look at Oswald here because he also leveled up and see what kind of things we can get with him. Okay, again, probably going to go maybe the same route, although his combat skill would be equivalent to the other guy, so we could up his resolve because his resolve is terrible. Yeah, let's do that because he did roll well on it. So we'll go defense, defense, resolve. Alright, I think that was a pretty good roll for us, so let's take our perk, which, if you haven't already figured out, I'm going to take recovery. Now, I will say, for some of these men, we may go a different route. Because I have a plan in my head of what I'd like to do. Now, a lot of it depends on how well I roll and how I put the skills in. Also, what other men we're able to recruit over time. So Winrick here needs to get melee skill so he can land more commonly. At least that's what we're hoping for. If we can get range skill, we may turn him into an archer. So we do have a bow or a crossbow ready for him. So either thing would be fine. Now, it doesn't have a focus on it though, so it's just going to be kind of random. Fatigue isn't going to be as important to the backline because they're not going to be wearing as heavy armor. Eventually they will wear armor, but I think what I'm going to do, I'm definitely going to take the melee skill. Usually speaking, I think 3 is as high as you can roll unless you do have like a stat modifier. I could be wrong on that. No, that's actually wrong because you can roll a 4. That's the proof right there. Okay, but I think 4 is about as good as it gets. 1 is about as bad as it gets. So 2 you can take, in my opinion, if it's a stat you feel really is important. But otherwise, you should be looking for 3s and 4s. So in this case, we are eventually going to want a banner, somebody that carries our banner. So, and that is a polearm. So this guy actually would be a decent candidate for that because his resolve is fairly good. So I may give him resolve. Range defense is good in your back line because you may get arrows shot at you. I think I'm going to go with the hit points here though because the roll was good enough that I think I'll take it. And these rolls are kind of bad, so I'll take that. Normally I don't upgrade hit points too much, as I feel like there's other things that are priorities, but it does help. All right, so for this guy, without a shadow of a doubt, I'm taking Fast Adaptation, because if he misses, that just makes it more likely he's going to hit next time. I don't think anything else really would make sense here. More inventory slots. That could be good. Actually, this could be amazing, the back line. But I think we should still go with the Fast Adaptation. I think it's just such a valuable perk. Okay, now for our Lone Archer at the moment. Rolled very well on the range skill, so we're of course going to want to take that. I'm also going to take the range defense because I don't want him getting hit by arrows. And then outside of that, any of these rolls could be used. Initiative is generally a good thing, and there's a lot of things that archers could benefit from with initiative. Again, fatigue can be useful, but probably not as big of a priority for the back line. Yeah, I think I'm going to take the initiative just because I rolled so well on it. Although I don't feel like I necessarily need it. It's always going to guarantee my archers go first, though. Okay, we're all good there. Let's take our perk. Now, with archers, sometimes I go with crippling strikes so that the chance that I'm going to inflict injuries on my opponent is high. Fast adaptation could be good, too. Again, if you miss, the next time it's likely you're going to hit. And when you have a bow, this is going to really be good for you. Again, the bags and belts could be really great because your back line having more inventory slots is really useful because you can give them like a bandage or something like that, which is honestly something we should look into getting. I think I'm going to take Fast Adaptation nonetheless, though. And at this stage, I think we're going to move from the crossbow to the bow because we could take better advantage of the Fast Adaptation that way. So we're going to want to remove the Quiver of Bolts and add in the Quiver of Arrows, and then give ourselves a short bow. The damage is going to be the same, 30 to 50. Just the difference is going to be the range effectiveness, or how far out we can shoot, and how it deals with armor. Obviously, the crossbow will be better with that, but this I can fire off more often. The more often I can fire it, the more I'm going to build up that Fast Adaptation. This is going to be generally more accurate, though. That's why if you have a guy that's a good candidate for an archer but isn't quite there yet, give him a crossbow because it can still give you decent accuracy, and it's a good utility weapon for that regard. Okay, so now we need to get in here and equip some men. So for now, I'm just going to give him his outfit kind of back. Head covering in the front line. Pretty important. But I also want to keep my archer alive. And he's got this bald spot. He wants to cover that up, right? There we go. A nice fancy hat anyway. Okay, so give him back his spear as well. And then we'll kind of evaluate things. It's kind of hard to evaluate him because he's taken a fatigue hit from his injury. So we'll have to see how that develops. But we'll look at my other men. This guy can't really take much more of a fatigue hit, and I would like him to have some kind of hat on his head, because a scarf is not really doing it for me. This guy still has a lot of space for... and he's going to get the experience up, so he will be leveling up pretty commonly. This guy has the best armor we can give him, so no real reason to look at him. This guy's got a lot of fatigue, so... I think I'm going to give the armor... like so. So you are going to get this. And then you are just going to upgrade slightly. And really where we're at is we need more helmets. We need ways to cover our guys' heads so they don't get their heads caved in like what happened to poor Lothar. We do have a bandage, and I was just talking about how that's something we kind of need to give our men in the back line. I believe it goes in this slot. They did change that. It used to be that you would put it in a slot up here, but now it goes into your general inventory slot. So give this guy a bandage. And the way bandages work is if somebody takes an injury that bleeds, you apply a bandage to it to remove the injury and stop the bleeding. And your back line can do that to your front line. As long as I think your front line is not tied up in combat, they can do that. And, you know, even if the guy that had the injury had a bandage on him, he couldn't apply it to himself if he's tied up in combat anyway. So there is that stipulation, but it's pretty important to have these because you don't want a guy bleeding to death. It also does remove the injury, so it's a way to remove that recovery period if you can apply it in combat. Obviously, it consumes a bandage, but still good. All right, let's go get our money. I think I did all the level ups. Yeah, and we have to figure out what to do with this yet, but I've got time to decide that. And I don't think any of these weapons that we got I'm going to end up using. I'll probably sell the wooden flail because I don't really necessarily care for it. But the other stuff I'll just keep around as tools that we could arm somebody with if we're kind of desperate for just arming somebody. Okay, continue. Rolling up some scrolls, Ortwin of Kutchendorf gives you your next instruction. I've got a gang of men going back there to rebuild the place. A lot of crowns are involved here, so I need you to make sure those men get there in one piece. After that, come back and get your pay. That shouldn't take long. Okay, so as I thought, they are repairing the location. So we will go and make sure they're okay. Now, there may be more brigands, so it's possible Rupert, we don't actually want him in the front line. Now, I could pick up Adelmar here, just as a man on the spot, but at that point, I'd be not making a profit. So I think we're just going to have to hope that combat doesn't happen here, because otherwise we're going to be in trouble, because this guy's already injured, this person's injured. We'll just have to see. It's a lot harder mission if we had to have to do 2 fights. So, all right. It's been a long journey, there and back and there again, but it's not really that long of a journey. It was literally outside town. Seems Wheatfields is now about to get its legs underneath itself again. After making sure the workers are safe, you start the return trip to Ortwin of Kutchendorf for your pay. You get paid. All right, so yeah, back and forth, back and forth. Returning to Ortwin of Kutchendorf, you explain that the Wheatfields is well underway to restoration. He thanks you. Oh, will you look at that? A mercenary who keeps his word and gets his work done. A rarity. Here's your pay. One of his men hands you a burlap sack, heavy and sharpened by crowns. Ortwin of Kutchendorf tips a hand. Be seeing you, Sellsword. Get our 260 crowns. Easy crowns. Again, say that to Lothar. Alright, so the town should like me more, but unfortunately not enough time has passed for them really to have very good supplies. They're selling this for less than it's worth though, so I'll go ahead and pick that up. We already discussed how important that could be. I may want to get some ammunition here. Though we're not doing too bad with ammunition. Really what we need is tools, but tools are too expensive here. I think they were cheaper in town. So that's something I'm probably going to get. I could get a straw hat just to get it. But it is quite a bit more expensive than just the, you know, a scarf or a hood or what have you. So I think we move on. There's nothing else in this town for us to do. So I do want to wait for this to get rebuilt. Yeah, okay. So this is no longer ruins. It's an actual wheat field. Now, has that changed what's in the town? Probably not. Again, we're going to have to wait until a little bit of time passes. Now, I could pick this up for a little extra. I mean, again, they're selling it for less than it's worth. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea. That way, our back line kind of gets a little bit of extra protection. So, we'll go with that. We could probably save the linen, sell the linen tunic, but in case somebody is in, like, sackcloth or something like that, we'll just keep it around for now, but very likely going to sell it. They now are willing to buy this for more than it's worth, probably because they like me more, so I will sell it now and get a little bit of cash from that. Okay, good start. Let's leave. We're going to go to the men, and I'm going to take my guy with the pitchfork, Winrick, and we're going to take the bandage and put that in his inventory. Okay. Let's get going. So I'm going to go to Sudburg first. just to stop off in town and probably get some supplies that we need. And then where are we going to go from there? That's the good question. We've got... I mean, these guys are kind of close to each other, but it is the edge of the map, kind of limits our options. This seems to be a fairly dense location here. But again, we want to get to wooded area, so I think we go Sudburg to Windburg, then up to probably Weidhof, but we'll call it Weidhof. Or we could go up this way, because these are all areas that you have to actually look at what businesses they have. So we've got smelters, wheat fields. That looks like about it. Watchtower, goat pens. Got some ruins, ore smelters. And that's an actual city there. There we go. Leather tanner, lumber camp. Yeah, this is probably a good location. Arrowmaker's shed. Yeah, so this is where we're going to want to go, because likely there's going to be archers. And we need at least one. I'd like to get minimum of one archer. So let's get going to Sudburg. This is a city as well, so we may find some goods that we want there. What do we have? Ore smelters. That's just a watchtower. Goat pens. And everything you see on the map actually does stuff. So there's contract here, but we can't do it because it is a factional contract. Until our men gain reputation, those aren't going to be available to us yet. We more or less have to build up our reputation to be more well known. Alright, I'm just going to take a peek. Because here we can get the hood that I was looking for. It's slightly more, being sold for more than it was worth, but you can see it's going to be sold for less than a straw hat, so I think it's worth picking up. I don't think we need another thick tunic, although I could buy one just as a precaution. And here's the cloth rolls. We sold them before. Things like that will stick around. We could buy some bandages, but I think I'm going to hold off. Definitely the tools are what we need to buy, because we don't have a lot of those. We only have 26. And those are going to get used up as we repair things. So definitely I'm going to buy at least one. Now that gives me 20 tools, so it's going to get me up to 46. Ideally, I'd want to buy more than that, but at the moment, I just don't think I can afford it. Food isn't too much more expensive than it's what it's worth here. At least the grain. The grains aren't, but I don't think I need it at the moment because we've got the beer plus 3 bags of grains. Things do spoil over time. They only last a certain number of days. Grains only last 7 days typically. Various goods will have various times that they will last, depending on what they are. Like, for example, the smoked ham lasts 12 days because it's smoked, so it's going to last a little longer. Bread lasts 8 days, you know, and so on. All right, well, I think that's probably all we want to see there. Let's go to the armorer, see if we can pick up maybe some cheap head protection. Unfortunately, armorers tend to have more high-end stuff. So this is a little bit beyond where I'm at the moment. This wouldn't be necessarily a bad pickup. It's kind of expensive though, and we really don't have the cash. We need to keep some cash on hand in case we have a lot of casualties, because you do need to rebuild with what money you have on hand. It's not like somebody's going to come in and give you an insurance payout because a bunch of your men died. You lose a bunch of men, you're going to have to recover with what you have in your bank. So, all right, let's leave. Let's take a look at the hire. I think the men are going to be the same men we saw before. We have to get to a new location, so we might as well just move out. Oh, okay, during camp. As is customary, you assemble the men to explain the company's next steps. Brothers, the Cursed must show the world we are forged of a hotter fire than our other mercenary bands. As our reputation grows, so will the influx of crowns to our coffers. Let us forge a path to greatness. What do you tell the men the company will do? Do we need a standard? This is something I already mentioned. We have to get up to 2,000 crowns to be able to afford it. Or we shall get the company strength back to 12 men. This is probably more achievable on what we'd want to do anyway. So back to a dozen men. It will make us a formidable force again and will allow us to take on more profitable work. This is what we're going to want to do anyway, so I'm going to take that. So this is kind of an extra little quest line that we can do. This is how we're going to build up our reputation as well. If we do these achievements, it's an ambition that will give us more reputation, which we can see right now. So right now we have 143 renown, which means that we're unknown. So we need to get that up before we start seeing more and more contracts. And eventually, if we get it up high enough, the different factions will start offering us jobs. And that's where this relationship will matter. We'll be able to build that up and potentially also lose reputation, although I think that comes more in when you're in the end game with the war, because you're going to have to pick sides. So that's maybe not going to matter as much in this playthrough. In any case, this is a good point to go ahead and wrap up the video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.